Purple Heart! Welcome to the Big 500!
Yeah!
What an amazing band. Thank you very, very much. All right, everyone. I think everyone knows the story. Thank you, everyone that's here. Thank you, all the artists, volunteers. We will open all the doors immediately, all together. It is a free-for-all. Be nice to each other. Patience is a virtue. Thank you to my partner, Jason Brown. Woo! We are People's Gallery. We welcome a new gallery. We have another gallery here, Wonder Gallery, $100 and under. Just opened it. Air Gallery, Mark Woolley, and People's Art of Portland.
We have cans in front of each gallery for food, for any of your donations.
If you have a food donation, just put it in the can. Be careful when you handle the art. Be nice to it, okay? Everybody worked hard on all this. This is amazing. Thank you very much. Happy holidays. Woo! Woo! Thanks, baby.
I'm Chris Haberman.
I'm Jason Brown.
And this is the Big 500. This is our 8th year. I think Jason's been doing it. I think this is this your 5th year doing it?
I think so. Fifth
or 6th year doing it together. It started as the Big 100. It was at Olympic Mills Commerce Center. One year we did it at Jason's venue, the Goodfoot, on Southeast Stark. And for the last 5 years, we've done it here at Pioneer Place Mall. And it's gotten bigger every year. Big 100, 200, 300, 400. And we're sticking with 500 because last year we had over 700 and it was crazy.
It gets way too crazy if you get more than that.
Yeah, too many cooks in the kitchen. Well, originally the show was mapped out. It was originally I did the show by myself. So we were like, hey, let's do the show with like top 100 artists that we work with for the year, you know. And we had the thing all laid out. Like here's here's a nameplate with 10 people, and you know they have their own little section. And then I got too far behind, and my buddy was driving a school bus full of kids. And he said, hey, we're going to come see the show. And I said, hey, we haven't really it's not hung. I don't know what to do. Like, I'm all by myself. He's like, well, we'll help you. So these kids, all full of candy, like 6th graders, come in. And basically, I was trying to tell them what to do, and they just started grabbing art and putting it up. So all I did was take down the nameplates, and the show became a chaotic thing. But that's how we hang the show now. And it makes sense to do it because the art is all hung kind of a little bit randomly, but to what looks good next to each other. You know, how the art talks to each other, you know.
The more interesting part about the beginning is cutting all the wood and getting all the random scraps. At first, now we buy everything brand new and comes from a place. The first couple of years, it was random scraps of wood that Chris found on the street and cut down in the basement garage, parking garage. And I remember one year helping him with doing that, and it was just bandana around your face and just covered in sawdust. Jason, all these janky, random like pieces of wood.
Jason came out of there and he looked like Father Sawdust Christmas with his full sawdust.
And even better yet, another one of those is we did when it was at the what was the place it was at?
Olympic Mills.
Olympic Mills. We couldn't hang anything on the walls, so we had to put up these sheets of plywood all the way around the whole place, which in and of itself was one thing.
And they were all Velcroed.
That was what I was going to get to. Then it got to like 2 hours before the opening. We're like, wait, how are we going to stick these on? And I thought, well, how about Velcro? So we just Velcroed all the pieces to these pieces of plywood.
And that was, I think that was 2008, I think is when that was. Yeah. And it was a really good night because there was a columnist for the Oregonian named Bob Hicks, who's really famous. He ran a column for 25 years. And that night, he had to write his very last column for the Oregonian. And he said he got so many emails inviting him to the show that he had to come down, and he hadn't written the column yet. And this is his final column for the Oregonian. Daily columnist for 25 years. He comes down to the show, and he just starts taking notes. Buying art, said he'd never seen anything like it in his life. He said all you could hear, and the next day he wrote his column about the Big 500, about the fact that it was a total symbol and represented what the community is in Portland. And it was his final column, so he felt it was perfect. to focus on this art show that he had attended. But he said all he saw was people on smartphones, texting people, taking pictures, and the sound of Velcro ripping through the building.
Oh my God! I mean, that's totally what this is evolved into, and from the beginning, it's just a community effort. Like all the artists. I mean, you see how many people have been helping with the entire operation, doing everything. So, I mean, it's turned into a huge event for sure.
And we work with so many different people. I mean, Jason and I we're the same, but we're different in our tastes and the people that we work with too. So, it becomes a really representational show. There's a wide age group. I mean, we have little kids to I think the oldest artist is 82 in the show. So, it's a real level playing field. That's what we've always said about this show. There's no name tags, you know.
It's all mixed together.
Someone famous can be hanging next to someone for their first show.
Yeah.
It's it takes out the whole ego of art. Really, it's based upon what does the art look like. Plus, it's total consumerism, and we're in the mall.
Yeah, it's all of the above. Yeah, for sure.
It's neat. I mean, we're in the mall where there's now a hipster Santa, so it's pretty perfect that.
Yeah.
You know, it's really great. Always that we've been here since 2010 as galleries, so it's been cool. Jason and I are not mall people. And I think probably 98% of the people that come to the galleries are not mall people, but it's been a good thing. It's a nice environment. It doesn't feel like you're in the mall. I mean, the mall is a big thing of America, so, you know, it's cool that we are here. This is one of the very few urban malls in the United States. We're right in smack downtown, you know, so it's neat to have, you know, this show's cool. Our bar line is way smaller than the sales line.
I'm Fred Swan, and I've been associated with People's honorably for 5 years. It's just like been an incredible experience for me to meet all the artists and so many young artists and all the creative spirits here. It's just been terrific. So for the last 2.5 months, I've been one of the artists in residence in the Air Gallery behind me, and then I agreed to be the director-curator of the gallery as of January 1st. So
fantastic.
Incredible opportunity to partner with people like Suzanne, and we have 4 other partners, and we're going to do multiple shows once a month. The Big 500 show has been an incredible experience to be involved in, because there's so many artists that are just emerging, or they haven't had an opportunity to hang their work anywhere, and Chris, Haberman, and Jason have been wonderful in providing people that opportunity. And the terrific thing about it is bringing together real experienced artists with brand new artists and hanging their work in the same place. It does something terrific about networking, and it gets artists involved with one another and encouraged. So
I have to admit, I love that exposure, that sense of being able to build the community a little bit more.
Incredible experience, yeah. That's how I met Suzanne. Suzanne, could we have Suzanne come over here?
Sure. Come on in.
And Leah. Leah's always, these are 2 incredible Portland painters.
So, introduce yourselves.
Suzanne Vaughan.
No. This is Suzanne Vaughan and Leah.
Leah Kohlenberg. Yeah.
And they're both wonderful painters too. Always involved in the 500 show and helping out, being part of this terrific community. So.
Well, are you in the Big 500 right now as well?
Yes, I've got 20 pieces, which is quite ambitious. Leah's also done a big chunk. When you've been doing it for a few years, you get invited to do like more than 10.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Suzanne has a whole new series coming out of beautiful pieces. Currently has a show down at Basic Space.
Yes.
And Leah's just written a book. It's being published at the first of the year on drawing portraitures and figures. But the 500 shows are a terrific opportunity both for young artists and to come together with other artists, and certainly older artists like myself. But it's a great opportunity to have the community be aware of the needs of people who are hungry, like the Oregon Food Bank, and so many of us are involved in different causes in the community. So it's a good platform for that.
Fantastic. What do you see as the future with the Artists in Residence Gallery?
Well, we're real excited about that, because there's I have 4 partners, so there'll be 5 of us in the gallery, and every month we'll have a guest artist. But in addition to that, we're going to have events here, poetry readings, films, dance events, classes, various demonstrations. Like we're going to have Leah come in and do a book launch here. So we hope to make it a kind of like a living organism rather than just a show that happens once a month and then it's empty the rest of the month. So it's going to be a destination place, I truly hope, for all the creative spirits of Portland.
I look forward to seeing it.
Oh, well, thanks for being interested in
So
us.
third Saturday of every month is the opening evening. So that's the time to come along from like 5 o'clock through till 9. All the galleries are open. And that's when, if there's going to be some new artwork featured, that's the night to come along and see the unveiling of that.
Yeah. And stay tuned for the opening of Leah's book, too.
Yes.
It's great. She's a great figurist, so.
We're very excited.
Thanks for being interested in us, really. So.
All right, Brian and Corrine Vegter from Baker City.
And what do you do, Brian?
I do paintings, mainly of dogs and bicycles and vintage trailers. And Corrine, what do you do?
I do metal sculpture and jewelry. I've got a couple pieces on right now of mine. Bike-inspired, trailer-inspired. Those are two of my favorite things. Vintage trailers and bikes.
So a couple of years ago when OPB did the Oregon Art Beat retrospective, we were both included in that show, and that's how we got to know them. So they hosted that show here, and it was like 13 years or 15-year retrospective of, so every artist that had been on the show that could provide a piece for the show could submit to be in the show. And so we both submitted one piece and then came out for it. And Chris is a big fan of Barley Brown's beer, which is brewed in Baker City, and so it was a very nice introduction to the Portland scene. We're both originally from Chicago, but moved to Oregon from New York City, and have been out in the middle of nowhere for almost 10 years now. And so to be on that show and then come and be here, and then after that show had come down, he invited me to be part of the Big 500, and I said, "Oh, Chris, Corrine would really like to be in it next year if there's like a waiting list." And then what did Chris say?
He's like, "Oh yeah, dude, totally have her be in it. I didn't think she'd want to do it." I guess he just, because I don't paint, but I thought for sure I could come up with some sort of metal type pieces to attach to the board. So that's what I did this year. Well, I attached leaves, copper leaves. So what I did is, so I've been working with metal clay. So it's basically metal that's been ground down into a powder form, and then it's mixed with an organic binder and water. And it's kind of like working with fine pastry dough. It's, you could roll it out. It's really flimsy, but it also takes impressions really well. So I took a couple of different leaves, aspen leaves being one of my favorites, and impressed that into the copper. And then it's just super fine copper, and it has a nice, kind of movement to it. And then they get fired. They get fired to about 1750. It's like a ramp hold type process. And during the firing, the metal clay, basically it sinters, so it basically turns back into metal. Right before it were to completely melt and to be like liquid, that's when it sinters and becomes metal again. So anyways, what I did is I took the metal leaves and then I torch fired them, and it brought out all kinds of cool colors in the copper. And then I had a couple different boards into different things. Like one of them, I don't call myself a painter. It's just like, what do I have in the studio that I could kind of use that's going to work? And so I had spray paint, so I started spray painting the boards, and I had some wash that I used to use on pottery. I tried some of that. And then I used to make dioramas, and I had some liquid resin, so I poured that to make it look like rain. And then leaves, and it came together cool. And so that was just one of the pieces. And then I did some other ones as well.
Sounds absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
It was fun.
I want to see the work.
I think they've sold.
We think it's all sold.
I haven't seen.
We
them.
only found one of the piece that she described, and we saw the people that bought it. Like it was somebody that we knew, and they were, "Oh, can you get it for me?" Because it was one of the higher up ones. So yeah. So one of the things to me that's different about the show than what I normally do is I paint relatively detailed, And so to do this show, I always paint looser with a larger brush and a slightly different medium. Like I paint in acrylic, and so I use the Golden Open, which is a acrylic that has a much longer dry time, so it can take up to 8 to 10 hours before it's dry, and so it's a little more blendable. And so what I've done for this show is a little bit more impressionistic and more painterly than what I normally do. And it was a lot of different dogs that I'd done. I had recently been playing around with reflection in water in a show that I'd done back in September, and so I tried to pick a couple of pieces that were like that for this show, and I never even saw them here. So that's a good sign, you know. And we were waiting in line since before 1 o'clock. So yeah, it's very humbling to be involved in a show with so many other talented artists, and then at the same time, it's super exciting to like walk in and never find your stuff. So.
We do have a website that we both share. It's called Vegter Design Works. And so Vegter, Design Works.
Both of us are without cards, so you'll just have to remember.
And you could follow us on Facebook, and then also check out the website.
And Instagram.
And Instagram, yeah.
But not Twitter.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Welcome to the Big 500.
Thank you.
And I understand you are one of the artists here.
That's what they tell me.
Tell us your name and describe your work.
I am Ethan Kimberling. This is my third year doing the show. I first heard about it through doing the Drink and Draw group over at the Goodfoot. But yeah, Chris and Jason have been a lot of fun to work with. It's great for them to organize a show.
They're awesome guys.
Yeah. As far as my artwork goes, the Big 500 is a good opportunity to kind of experiment.
Most
do
definitely.
Like a series, or just do like each piece very differently. This year, I ended up kind of doing more of a series, a lot of black and white, high contrast, like profile portraits. So yeah, it's been a good experiment/learning experience.
Wonderful, wonderful. Do you find that the show brings out like just a lot of the more fun qualities that people like throw at their art, the kind of stuff that, I mean, you said experimentation, so it gives you a bit of freedom, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's always interesting to see what people come up with going into the show with the same format. So like everybody having 8x8 panels, I think is brilliant for this show, both from, like a practical matter, it makes it easier to hang, but at the same time giving artists this same limitation, but then coming out with such a wide variety of work is just awesome. It's a great idea.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Cutting loose.